so that's where it came from. It's like, you're not killing the plant, you're just eating its semen.
Yeah.
The American Dragon!
I'm here with Bryan Danielson, classic wrestler, one of the most legendary wrestlers of all time. And I'm not the first person to say that, just to let you know. All right, I'd like to ask you, in a past interview, I had to go through a deep dive on this one. In a past interview in 2001, you were quoted with saying that the ECWA's Super 8 tournament in 2001, where you went against Loki, was the greatest night in your wrestling career. 23 years later in 2024, do you still look back at that match with awe, and has there been a new match that sort of replaced that?
Well, so I mean, now I no longer have like one specific moment. It's a collection of moments, and even things that people wouldn't even think of, as far as like just a match that means nothing. Nobody will remember the match at all, but I hold a special place for it in my heart. There's lots of things like that. And so, that tournament was really important for my career. And so it still holds a special place in my heart. And especially the promoter, Jim Kettner, he did so much for my career, because that was during a time I was in WWF developmental. And then I had gotten fired shortly after that tournament. But because Jim Kettner brought me in for that tournament, it gave me kind of a name in the Northeast independent scene, where people would fly me out to do shows. It actually got me booked here because of the name that I made there in ECCW. So like when I had to go back to college, I was working 2 jobs, but I was able to drive from Aberdeen up to here in Vancouver or Surrey or Abbotsford or all these different places to do shows, and it was because of that tournament.
All right, thanks. And great transition into the next question. You just mentioned that you've been here before. You've gone through the various promotions here as an independent wrestler. What's your relationship like with the city of Vancouver?
Oh, I love it up here. The last independent show that I did in Vancouver was at the Russian Community Center for ECCW, and so yeah. But I love it because it's an extension of the Pacific Northwest, right? Like, it's not. I don't see. We talk about Vancouver, Seattle, you could go borders with Canada. Those are all things that we've made up in our human, like in the way that humans make things up, right? These borders of things. It's all one area, right? It's all, like when you look at the indigenous history of the Salish Sea, which, going into Puget Sound and all that kind of stuff, and the Strait of Juan de Fuca and all of that. And you look at even like the Canucks, right? Their logo that has an orca on it. Those orcas traverse this whole waterway, right? And so I've always kind of seen this as my homeland. When I come here, I would come here and I would wrestle shows at ECCW, and sometimes I would do the thing like USA, 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 and that's all like. It's interesting because I've always thought of it like, what a weird thing. I'm closer to the people of Vancouver than I am to the people of New York City, right? In the sense of like, and in the ways that we share common things, in the way that we share, for example, the orcas and the whales in the Salish Sea, and in the way that we share the Douglas fir trees, and in the way that we share these beautiful mountains and all that kind of stuff. We're sharing the same thing, more so than somebody in Charlotte, North Carolina. Right, and so it always feels, even if it's not necessarily what people would call my home, it feels like home.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, what you said is that we've decided that Seattle and Vancouver are different, but it's essentially the same area. Yeah. But going back to what you mentioned about ECCW, because I was, did more on the YouTube deep dives. Do you look back on your time in ECCW fondly? There were some great matches against Disco Fury, Havoc, or the Black Dragon.
Got me in the bell for you. You want to give it up?
Yeah, I loved wrestling for ECCW, and they're also probably one of the reasons why I stayed in wrestling after I was under WWF developmental deal until 2001 when they bought WCW, and it was really hard because there wasn't much money in independent wrestling, and I had to move back home and live with my mom and all that kind of stuff. And so having something that was this close, which is 6 hours, but they were running 150 shows a year, so they would pick me up on any weekend and let me do 3 shows, and we'd go over and we'd do shows on the island. And we did, like, one of my favorite memories is, you know, I'm doing my USA shtick and like Canada sucks and, you know, all this kind of stuff, and then somebody storms the ring, right? And there's only 75 people at this show, right? But he storms, F you or whatever it is. It was like, okay, I guess we're getting in this real fight right, right here. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, and you know, it was the shows, them putting me on in a time where like it was crucial for me to have the ability to stay on these shows, but then also the wrestlers that were there. I just had a blast being around, you know. So yeah, I look at that period of my career as like something very special.
Right. I mean, I'm glad that you had a good time here in Vancouver, and you know, it was a big part of your wrestling career. And you know, I'd like to ask you some quick social media questions.
Boy,
all right.
I love social media.
You know,
there's nobody who loves social media more than me.
Yeah. Rank these 5 Canadian wrestlers without knowing who's next. Christian Cage.
4.
Kenny Omega.
1. That's controversial.
Yeah. Adam Copeland.
Oh gosh. 3.
Bret Hart.
2. That's why I didn't put Adam Copeland as number 2. I was saving Bret Hart for that spot.
And I guess the last one. Chris Jericho.
5.
Yeah.
Shoot. Poor Chris.
The learning tree.
Yeah.
Jeez. You satisfied with this list?
You know what? I hate ranking wrestlers because they're all great in different ways. You know what I mean? I watch Kenny Omega, and that's why I had a definitive he's my number 1, is because in the sense of he's just fantastic, right? I watch him and I think he's fantastic. I hope he gets well soon, you know. But you know, when he's one of the reasons why I came to AEW is okay, I want to wrestle Kenny Omega, right? And so it's like you know, and obviously people of my generation and any generation, you should watch Bret Hart matches and that sort of thing. But yeah, you know, I wrestled Christian Cage in October. He's fantastic. Adam Copeland is fantastic. You know, Jericho is fantastic. It's hard. That's why I hate ranking. Somebody in another interview asked me about my Mount Rushmore. I was like, I don't do that. I don't want to get people upset at each other because it's just like it's a weird thing, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. So you don't want to, because everyone has their own, you know, moments, right? Everyone has their own legendary spots. You know, going back to Vancouver though, we'll do a little game of overrated or underrated Vancouver edition. All right, putting you into some more spicy spots.
Yeah.
All right, overrated or underrated the Grouse Grind?
I don't know what that is.
It's anyways, we'll skip that one. But that's the hiking stairs, the stairway up Grouse Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll skip that one. All right, the Vancouver food scene.
Underrated. I love Vancouver has some of the best vegan spots ever.
And you play specific?
I always forget names, but once I get to my hotel and do some Googling, I would have a better answer for that.
All right. Stanley Park.
Great. Probably So it's hard because I don't think a lot of people know these places outside of Vancouver.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Stanley Park is unbelievable.
All right. We have Granville Island.
I don't know if I've been there.
Not really. Yeah. I think you should. I think it's a great spot. I think you should check it out if you have any time.
I mean, my overall perspective on most things, I would say underrated, and then go check it out. And then if you're disappointed, sorry. At least if you're doing it today, at least it's a beautiful day.
And just you know, coincidental because we're right behind the Vancouver Canucks.
So okay, this is going to be a longer form answer. So I think their newer logo is underrated because one of the people for the team said that they like the older logo with the skates better. So I'm going to say this. Older logo, overrated. Hate the skates. Hate the skates. New logo, underrated because orcas are awesome.
I agree. I'm a fan of the orcas, but no comment on the skates. I'll say that. No comment on the skates. All right, just a couple more e-bikes.
Yeah, I mean, just overrated. Just do a normal bike.
Fair point, fair point. And lastly, Crocs. They're pretty big here, Crocs.
Oh, overrated. I don't. No, thank you. No, thank you on the Crocs.
You would never rock a Croc in your life?
Never rock a Croc. If I see you rocking a Croc, you can't come to AEW shows. That's a lie. You can buy tickets at AEWTix.com. But if I see you, I might punch you in the face. That's also a lie. I'll get sued. Just don't show me your Crocs.
This Saturday, you'll be facing Top Flight as a part of AEW Collision show at Rogers Arena with your longtime friend and fellow BCC member, Claudio Castagnoli. What's your strategy for this upcoming Saturday? You did mention that you have high praise for Top Flight, but you want to beat him. Yeah. So how are you going to beat him?
I mean, it's interesting because they're so athletic, right? So what I like to do with young athletic guys that never get tired. When you're old, guys that never get tired and are young and have all this, like, they don't have the injuries that we have and all that kind of stuff, it really pisses me off, right? So I think I'm just going to have to go after their kneecaps or maybe their ribs or maybe crush their trachea or a host of other things. Yeah. And also, do you really think it's smart for me to divulge my strategy to you where they're going to watch it?
You make a fair point.
So I have to give you, okay, this is a broad generalized thing. I have to neutralize their athletic ability, but how am I going to do that? Am I going to fist them in the face? I don't know.